In the right corner, we have a hulking combat veteran that happens to be everyone's favorite ginger. And in the left corner, we have the quintessential ahead-of-the-curve prodigal survivor. Both of these men represents what is, in the eyes of many Walking Dead fans, post-apocalyptic alpha male energy. Now, one was underutilized and the other was masterfully adapted and expanded on when compared to his comic book counterpart. Yet neither of these men were ever given the chance of sharing the screen together. Regardless of this fact, you all wanted me to pit these two men against each other. So I'm going to compare and contrast Shane Walsh and Abraham Ford, in order to see which would likely win in a heated deathmatch. I'll be comparing their weapons, physical stats, and their combat skills in order to come to the closest approximation of a definitive conclusion with regards to this fictional duel. So with that said, sit back and relax, because this is going to be one hell of a curb stomp. In any conflict between two opposing forces where violence is being exchanged between both parties, the tide of battle can be heavily influenced, and even won, by the very weapons being utilized by said respective parties. As such, let's begin this comparison of weaponry by looking at Shane Walsh's signature weapon, the Mossberg 590. This metal death stick is capable of holding 7 to 8 rounds, depending on the shotgun shell in question. Being a shotgun, the Mossberg is capable of firing birdshot, bugshot, and slug rounds. Of the 3 options available, buckshot and slug rounds are the best against human targets. Buckshot typically has an effective range of 30 to 50 yards, with the added capability of penetrating walls, car doors, and other similar barriers. Slug rounds don't spread like buckshot, but they are extremely powerful. Slugs generally have an effective range of 50 to 100 yards, while also being able to penetrate lightly armored targets under the right conditions. Being a pump-action shotty, the Mossberg's fire rate is dependent on the speed and skill of its operator. As such, the Mossberg is an incredibly deadly weapon in close quarters and even in open environments. But this weapon's critical weakness is not only its lack of precision at range, but also its slow reload time. Now, surely a skilled operator can reload this bad boy on the fly, but it'll never be as fast as reloading a firearm with a magazine feed, assuming equal skill with both weapons. Madman Abraham's signature weapon is also a weapon of war, being the legendary M16A1. This American icon has an ammunition capacity of 30 5.56 NATO rounds. These assault rifle rounds can penetrate soft and lightly armored hard targets as well, all at an effective range of roughly 328 to 546 yards. Being a box magazine-fed weapon, the M16 can be reloaded quickly. This extremely capable boomstick also comes with versatile firing modes, ranging from semi-automatic and fully automatic fire. As such, the M16A1 dominates the Mossberg 590 in almost every single combat scenario, as it can lay more effective suppressive fire, hit targets at range more reliably, fire at a faster firing rate, and can be reloaded far faster and less often. But there is one important weakness of the M16 that must be mentioned. While being a generally reliable weapon, it is far more likely to jam than the Mossberg. The shotgun is also a bit more effective at close quarters as well. That being said, the M16A1 is the superior weapon overall. But what about handguns? Insane Shane rocks the Glock 17, a versatile, accurate, user-friendly, and reliable handgun, which fires 9mm parabellum rounds, which come in various configurations. The Glock can literally fire full metal jacket rounds, hollow points, jacketed hollow points, ballistic tips, armor-piercing rounds, and even frangable rounds. And it typically holds 17 of these rounds in its magazine. Unfortunately, Shane doesn't seem to use armor-piercing rounds, nor does he utilize an extended magazine. Abraham, on the other hand, utilizes the Beretta M9 and the Desert Eagle. But you know what, I'm gonna be nice to Shane and give Abe the Desert Eagle, which fires .50 rounds, .44 Magnum rounds, or .357 rounds, with a standard magazine capacity of 7 to 9 rounds, depending on the round being utilized. Now, both handguns are extremely accurate, but the Desert Eagle is more difficult to fire due to its recoil. The Glock also has to reload less often due to its larger magazine capacity. It's also far easier to conceal. The Eagle likely edges the Glock in terms of stopping power, but it doesn't outright dominate. The Glock is also easier to draw at a faster speed than the Eagle merely due to the form factor of the weapon. As such, I would say that Shane holds a significant edge with secondary firearms or handguns. But what happens when both men close the distance? Shane has a lovely Gerber Hinderer folding knife, which is a phenomenal everyday carry knife. But Abraham? This man is rocking a giant knife that is likely a combat knife of some type.
That's not a knife. That's a knife.
Yeah, Abraham slaughters when it comes to melee weapons. When considering all of these weapons, I'd have to give a substantial edge to Abraham, as he can dominate Shane at both long and medium ranges while being comparable and competitive and sometimes superior to Shane in close quarters. Considering how often characters in The Walking Dead get up close and personal with one another, it would make sense to compare and contrast the physical stats of these two characters, especially when you recognize that these two men may just end up in a fistfight after running out of ammunition. When we look at both Shane and Abraham, I think it's rather apparent that one of these dudes is bigger than the other. Now, I couldn't find the official height of these characters, so I opted to go with the height of their respective actors. Hence, Shane is only 5'11" while Abraham is 6'1". And, just based on a basic eye test, we can see that Abe is likely a weight class or two above Shane. The Killer Ginger is also capable of effortlessly crushing Walker skulls with his M16 stock or rifle butt, while also being capable of casually stabbing through Walker skulls like shit going through a goose. The veteran also has bricks for fists, as he's easily floored people on more than one occasion. Abraham also managed to tank a direct hit from Lucille to the head, without getting dazed. The man even had the wherewithal to tell Negan to suck his fucking nuts after the same hit that nearly turned Glenn's head into soup. Now compare that to Shane, who was nearly KO'd by him running into a fucking tree. So you know what, I think it's fairly safe to assume that Abraham is more durable and resilient when compared to Shane. But Shane isn't a slouch in the strength department, as he managed to hold a bus door closed while multiple walkers were attempting to ram it open. He also casually broke Randall's neck, snapping that shit open like a cold one with the boys. He's also incredibly agile and is likely on par with Abraham in terms of running speed and combat speed. Both men likely have similar reaction speeds as well. Now, when it comes to stamina, I think we can safely assert that both men are comparatively relative. Abraham has gone on killing streaks without breaking a damn sweat, and Shane basically ran an all-night marathon at Cranwell High School with an injured leg, carrying what was likely 60 pounds of gear. All things being considered, Abraham appears to have greater attack potency, greater durability, and resiliency, and he definitely has better reach, leverage, and a clearly distinct weight advantage over Shane. But King County's finest seems to be a bit faster while being potentially stronger and more agile than Abe. But when you consider the disparity in durability and attack potency, and when you consider Shane's advantages are minimal, you'd have to concede that Abraham has a notable edge in physical stats. Strength is indeed important, but being able to hit hard is better than being able to lift shit. That's why I'd always bet money on a prime Mike Tyson beating a prime Arnold Schwarzenegger in a fight. Strength advantages can also be dampened by factors like reach and leverage, and especially with weight disparities, as the lighter guy will always have to work harder than the heavier guy in a grappling situation. Speed and agility don't matter when said advantages aren't overwhelming, nor do they matter when your opponent can easily tank your hits and potentially one-shot you in return. So overall, I'd say the edge convincingly goes to Abraham. The single greatest predictor of victory in any conflict between two warriors is almost always going to be their skill set and experience. Now, sure, sometimes being super strong will trump skill, just as having a massive advantage in weaponry can achieve the same result. Case in point, you could be the best fighter alive and all of that skill won't save you from a fucking Kodiak bear. You could be Achilles, expertly wielding a bronze sword and shield, but that won't do jack shit against some dude with an RPG. But generally speaking, the individual with the best skill set and experience is almost always going to win. At least in any confrontation where both parties have little to no intel on one another, which is the case in this deathmatch. Be that as it may, let's begin with Shane. This King County sheriff has the typical skill set of your local southern cop. thus granting him a rudimentary understanding of firing and maneuvering during a firefight. He's also likely experienced at handling tense situations while also understanding how to read people. Shane likely has decent detective skills as well. But unlike most cops, Shane was a former firearms instructor. As such, he likely has above average aim for a sheriff. We also know that he has experience in shootouts as well, but based on Rick's reaction when he got shot, it's likely that Shane and Rick have little experience in firefights overall. Which makes sense, they were cops in a rural fucking county and not Detroit or LA. Shane is also definitely not as skilled or experienced as your typical SWAT operator. That being said, Shane has proven to be incredibly crafty in his own right, managing to apply Rick's bloodletting strategy against walkers and also demonstrating his ability to deceive others when he fooled everyone with regards to Randall's fake escape. He's also a decent hand-to-hand fighter, dominating Rick in their first hand-to-hand exchange, and nearly equalizing after Rick ambushed him. Shane also seems to be decently skilled in grappling, but Shane is also emotionally impulsive, often losing his temper, which is a weakness that can be exploited. But make no mistake, Shane's anger never dampens his combat proficiency, but rather it'll cause him to sometimes blunder in his decision-making. Abraham, on the other hand, was a fucking sergeant in the US military, and he was also a goddamn combat veteran, something which was indeed confirmed in the episode Knots Untie. This resume guarantees that Abraham, even prior to the Walker apocalypse, is more skilled and experienced in firefights, marksmanship, and general infantry tactics. Abraham is also pretty damn capable in hand-to-hand combat, even having a decent understanding of grappling. But unlike Shane, Abraham isn't always the best at reading people. And if his heart isn't in the fight, he can be downed by literal fodder. But if he's locked the fuck in, Abraham is a literal monster. Everything Shane can do combat-wise is going to be done better by Big Abe. Shane's only real advantage here and hope is to outsmart this behemoth of a man. So we're finally here, the final verdict. Let's quickly recap each category. With regards to weaponry, Abraham holds a notable edge. When it comes to physical stats, Abraham holds a substantial edge. And when it comes to combat skills, Abraham literally dominates. As such, I believe that Abraham would likely defeat Shane by a ratio of 9 to 10. In a fair firefight where there's a mixture of open and confined spaces with variable cover and concealment, Abraham is simply going to outmaneuver Shane and down him with better angles of attack. If the two men get into a confined space where Shane's Mossberg has the edge over the M16, the advantage afforded to Shane won't be substantial enough to overcome Abe's experience and skill in a firefight. After all, he's likely dealt with shotguns in the Middle East, and let's be real here, real firefights aren't like the ones you have in video games. There's a reason why infantry prefers an assault rifle, even in CQC. But if the two fight in an open space, Abe will simply snipe Shane. Yup, it's as simple as that. Oh, and in a knife fight, Abraham is going to gut Shane alive. And in a fist fight, Abraham is likely going to pick up Shane like Android 16 and slam him on the ground, breaking his back. Shane's only real hope is to either get a lucky kill or to somehow outsmart Abraham, in the same manner that Eugene outsmarted the killer Ginger. But you know what? I don't see how he outsmarts Abraham in the middle of an actual deathmatch. You see, this would be something that requires prep time, as Shane doesn't really demonstrate the battle IQ needed to trick someone in the middle of an actual conflict. His best deception feats all occurred with prep time. So odds are, Abraham is going to drop Shane like he dropped insurgents during the War on Terror. Literal, pre-apocalypse Abraham is enough to fold Shane like a cheap lawn chair. Peak Abraham, as seen in the series, is just overkill. As such, I declare Abraham Ford to be the unanimous victor in this matchup, which, by the way, was selected by you, the viewer. Not sure why, as this was exceedingly one-sided, but you know what, whatever. Ask and you shall receive. Anyways, if you like this sort of content, please like, share, and fucking subscribe. Also remember that you may opine anytime if you feel so inclined down in the comment section. I'm Captain Gold and hope to see you in my next Gold Standard video.